So, Pastor, Reverend Nikki, I have two daughters,
Yes.
and I told them to, sometimes they watch and sometimes they don't. But I specifically told them to watch tonight. And I think when we were backstage, you were saying that you have a daughter as well, correct?
Mhm.
So, what would you tell the young women, especially women of color, young Black women, Latina women, what
Yes.
have you, women of color that are matriculating through school today and have these ambitions in terms of being in male-dominated industries, such as whether it be, and I'm an attorney, whether it be the legal field, whether it be a doctor, whether it be in film. What would you tell them in terms of your experiences and how you got to where you are right now?
So I think it starts with perception. It really does. I where I got to where I am right now, and I did not work in a male-dominated field, although being a minister during a time where women were not biblically seen to be ministers, was definitely the same type of challenge. I have gone to places where, to speak, where I was totally looked down upon by the male ministers because they didn't biblically think I belonged.
Right.
I didn't belong there. And there are still men today who don't believe women should, whether it be a pastor or preach or teach or any of those type of things. And so, yes, I'm in a male-dominated, I guess, ministry or field. But it really, again, goes back to perception. Who do I believe God has called me to be? Right? Because that's the base struggle. Whenever I've struggled with insecurity or struggled to feel like I fit in, it always went back to, it touched on something that I believed about myself to begin with. Mm-hmm. Nobody can touch a nerve that doesn't exist. Right? And so for your daughters who are going into male-dominated fields, number one, they have to believe I'm called to this. Mm-hmm. And I'm not called by man, I'm called by God. How do I know I'm called for it? I have a passion for it. I've worked for it. I believe this is the field I'm supposed to be going in. I've always wanted it. And so I have to believe that I'm just as good, I'm just as talented as the next person, and not get into this self-fulfilling or cyclical cycle, if I can say that, of trying to prove myself. Mm-hmm. This is what happens. When you go in and you feel, and they immediately say, oh, you're going into a male-dominated field. It's tough. Immediately, your mind goes to, oh, I gotta step up, right?
Right.
Now, on some small level, that's true. You got to come in a little tighter, right? Because I'm Black, I'm a woman, so I need to be tight. But I need to be tight no matter what. Right? But if I go in with this thing right here at the top of my head of, oh God, it's male dominant. Oh Lord, immediately I get into this cycle of I have to prove myself. Mm-hmm. The moment you start trying to prove yourself, you create this self-fulfilling prophecy or self-fulfilling cycle of failure. Because when you start trying to prove yourself, you have to put more energy and effort into not failing than succeeding. I'm going to say that again. You have to put more energy. You start focusing on not failing versus what are all the steps that I need to do to succeed. Mm-hmm. And see, there's a difference between the two, because not failing means I'm just measuring up. I'm just doing, what I need to do. Succeeding is I'm taking all the different steps that I need, and I'm learning how to maintain my equilibrium, my balance. I'm learning how to maintain, as well as learning how to take the steps to take it to the next level.
Right.
And so the moment you start trying to prove yourself, what are you trying to prove? That I'm adequate. You will always create what you fear. So if you're afraid that people are going to see you as inadequate, you start messing up on your job because the energy is so the energy in the atmosphere is so focused on trying to prove that you're adequate, that you literally start messing up in other areas and other ways because you're not being true to who you are.
Right.
The other thing is you're trying to prove something about yourself that's already true. You don't have to prove it. But
Right.
I think my thought is you don't think that I'm adequate. So I've got to prove to you that I'm adequate. So I start doing extra stuff that's not in my purview that I probably shouldn't be doing, or I pull myself way back because I'm afraid to put myself out there. Because if I put myself out there, you might see that I'm not adequate. And at the end of the day, it starts back with the fact that I don't think I'm adequate.
Right.
It's the cycle of you all have experienced it.
Yeah.
I've experienced it. I would tell myself right before I got up to speak, don't mess up your words, don't mess up your words. Don't mess up your words. Guess what I did? I messed up all my words.
We all do that. We all do that. Yeah.
Because I'm so worried about people. You know, my perception is success to them is if I don't mess up my words. Where did I get that from? I came up with that on my own.
In your mind.
Told me that.
Right.
I developed that theory in my head. Anytime someone says, "Oh, it's going to be a large crowd," we're talking several thousand. and they're waiting on you. They're waiting. They're better come with it. You know,
Right.
and I don't come with it because I'm so worried about trying to prove to you that I am who you think I am versus being who I know I am.
Right. Sure.
And it's such a powerful concept to walk through the door and just be me.
Right.
Just be me. That I belong here. God made space in the universe at this moment, at this time, for who I am to show up. Not the imitation version, not the version that needs to prove itself. And that's the greatest hurdle. So if your daughters are listening, the greatest thing you can do is go in and be the best you. I mean, kill it with you.
Absolutely.
And you got to know that within you is a rock star, that you got something that nobody else has, that there is something about you that you do every day near perfection that nobody else can do, that nobody else can accomplish. And if you don't believe that, you will go in looking for someone to validate that part of you.
Right.
What's my secret weapon? What do I do that makes me valuable?
Sure.
Because if you don't, you will lose your value. You will go into a job and be undervalued and be underpaid because you don't know what you're bringing to the table. You don't know
what your worth is.
To offer and what your worth is. So who cares if it's male dominated or female dominated? Female dominated has its unique challenges.
I'm sure.
One's better than the other. I know it's
right.
dominated world.
Take your pick. It's a toss-up.
Female dominated world.
Right.
We're so social. We will, I call it, my last job, I was in Kentucky. There was one building I would go in and my job was to help the CEO and the managers to create culture change. And I tell you, it was because it was a healthcare field. They were all women. They were all nurses. And I tell you, that was the mean girl club.
Really?
I felt so bad for the new babies who I trained on the wing. I mean, they were alienated. It was like being back in high school all over again. So no matter what atmosphere you go into, whether it's male dominated or female dominated, you have to know, who am I? What do I have to do? And I don't have to prove myself. I just have to be.
Right.